Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only, Mighty the Armadillo here.
And I am Ray the Flying Squirrel, and of course we are back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of new Super Mario Bros. DS,
the ROM hack of New Super Mario Bros. Specifically for the Nintendo DS.
So, last time, we somehow managed able to fully experience World 6, which does manage to take place in Lunar Realm, so that obviously takes place into outer space, which is pretty interesting. So overall though, despite the fact that we do die occasionally, specifically with all that moon physics, and also like what Ray has established that earlier, for the fact that we cannot, I repeat, we cannot wall jump onto any of those space levels, because, well, obviously that was about the fact that, like I stated before, we have to deal with the forms of moon physics, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So today, for this video, is that we are about to be heading over into World 7, which does manage to take place in Cirrus Heavens. So, obviously though, much like the vanilla version of New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, basically though, is about the fact that it's going to take place in the skies and the clouds above. So, but here's the thing though, is about the fact that with this particular ROM hack, as far as I'm aware, they does manage able to bring in some interesting gimmicks to it. So because of that though, so suffice to say though, I think it's your turn to start things off, Mighty, onto World 7-1.
So as a result though, it's about the fact that here we go on to Lavender Sky Bridge. So even then, let's go ahead and hop into this. So, and also as far as I'm aware, it's about the fact that, oh, I did not notice that Shy Guys was in there. So I suppose no matter what though, it's about the fact that, well, that's what I mean about the fact that when it comes to more specifically that, remember when I said this before, the fact that some worlds attempt to get much more lengthier later on? Well, usually relatively speaking, I was about the fact that not only for the fact that certain stages can go a lot more difficult this time, but it's also about the fact that this might actually be the final world in the entire ROM hack, in addition to the vanilla version of New Super Mario Bros. DS, mind you, that this will be the last time that we can able to try to find those secret exits, because, like I stated before, it's about the fact that when it comes to likely World 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7 especially, those worlds only has those specific secret exits that you can able to try to find, whilst unlike World 6 and 8, does not have any of those secret exits to be found. So, I digress. Yeah, that's what I was thought about anyway, so...
Anyways though, so yeah, a few things we want to talk about this is though, and that's what it appears to be for the fact that, well, today's date of course here is the 16th of August today, in some cases in 2025 today, and we are officially made it onto the halfway point in terms of August in 2025. I know it sounds a little bit, weird for saying this, but that's just mainly because we are super duper desperate about the forms of trying to go ahead and get into September with all these exciting stuff they're able to actually brings us into. Specifically, that we've already on about that quite a lot of times actually. That's of course, when exactly is it going to be for the sake of the forms of trying to able to bring out a lot of stuff for the sake of the forms of the Mario's 40th anniversary. So even then though, because there's a lot of rumors out there, which, and then again though, like what Maxi has already established that before, we simply just give up on the actual rumors and leaks at this point, just because, my goodness, it tends to drag on, and not only that though, it's about the fact I'm just getting sick of the phones, those little bogus news and stuff like that, after the events of that particular fake thing about the forms of the New Super Mario Bros. Collection, because, well, we already pointed out ever since around a couple of days back, so, but anyways.
And also, as far as I'm aware, the music track for this particular stage, as far as I'm aware, is actually based off from Yoshi's Island, so because of that though, because, you know, it does manage to take place in the skies above, so... yeah, that's exactly how I was thought about it, because still, we've only done 2 Yoshi games throughout our channel, which appears to be, of course, Yoshi's Woolly World for the Wii U, and Yoshi's Crafted World for the Nintendo Switch. So, aside from all that stuff though, we need to get around on doing some more Yoshi games in the future, to be more specifically with not only Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, but in addition to Yoshi's Island, Super Mario Advance 3, and all kinds of stuff. So because of that though, yeah, with that being said though, I guess it's now your turn now to do the final ghost house level in this particular ROM hack. So because of that, yeah, because once we make our way to World 8, then obviously that was about the fact that everything else is most likely going to be taking place in the forms of let's just say, the 8th and final world is going to be called Koopa Country, at least as far as I do realize about that, especially considering about the fact that, honestly folks, is about the fact that at this point in time, that specifically when it comes to this particular weekend, that we should be able to actually conclude every aspect in terms of the forms of newer Super Mario Bros. DS, because fundamentally speaking, I was about the fact that at this point in time, that recently though, that Maxi did somehow manage able to conclude any other aspects in terms of the forms of the Mario Party mode, specifically in Super Mario Party Jamboree, the Switch 1 version, because at this point in time, he's probably not going to be able to go back onto Mario Party mode for a while until he decides to able to show off some extra stuff. Also, taking a notice from Super Mario 3D World, you think you're about to be able to try to get that particular flagpole at the end, but it turns out that you got tricked, all thanks to the forms of that particular bogus, boost as far as this is considering for. Yeah, it does remind me like a similar vibes almost as the forms of Super Mario 3D World, because usually in that game also has that particular fake out goal pole for that particular end of the stage kind of stuff. So yeah, you probably get the gist of it. So anyway though, and also as far as I'm aware is about the fact that, well, aside from the fact that Maxi did already technically point out, for the sake of the forms of that particular game is going to be on its way for Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 5 alongside with Xbox Series X/S, which appears to be by the forms of, as be expected, Fast and Furious Arcade Edition, which obviously though the developer for the game is going to be made by Game Mill Entertainment, or specifically Game Mill in general. So suffice to say though is about the fact that that doesn't stop there, because as far as what Maxi has already pointed out, that particular game is going to be releasing at some point on the 24th of October, but that doesn't end off here, because they also did manage to bring out the other two games that he forgot to mention about, which appears to be both Snoopy and the Mystery Club. I think it's what it says anyway. Oh, it's called Snoopy and the Great Mystery Club. So as a result though, that game was expected to be releasing, to be confirmed to be coming out on the 10th of October, roughly the exact same day as in the 15th anniversary of the forms of, what else? The My Little Pony Friendship is Magic 15th anniversary celebration. So, I digress. So, aside from all that stuff though, that game is also going to be coming out on not only Nintendo Switch, but in addition to PlayStation 5, and of course Xbox Series X/S, and even PC Steam versions as well. So, and in addition to that though, they're also going to be bringing out Hot Wheels Let's Race Ultimate Speed. And aside from all that stuff though, that game is also going to be releasing on the 24th of October, which is roughly exactly the same day as the forms of Fast and Furious Arcade Edition. So because of that though, now aside from all that stuff though, the Hot Wheels Let's Race Ultimate Speed is expected to be releasing until the 24th of October, the same day as the forms of that particular Fast and Furious Arcade Edition game I was on about. And relatively speaking for this point though, right, is that as we expected, it's going to be releasing on Nintendo Switch 1, and in addition to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X/S, and even PC Steam. Because I get the strong sense of feeling for this point, Mighty, is that I think, fundamentally speaking, I was about the fact that, like what Maxi has already speculated for, they may look like that both PlayStation 4 and Xbox One systems are almost about to be going into phase out for the sake of the forms of future gaming releases to come. At least as far as I'm usually considered with, because, well, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that at this point in time, future generations has to move on, so generally speaking, I was about the fact that we can pretty much expect what's to come, especially considering of all that particular points worth noting for, that, like what Maxi has already established that earlier, for the fact that the last PlayStation 4 games and the final Xbox One games he might be considered getting for, that's of course not only Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, before Sonic decides able to actually just like, well, move on to the
different systems every once in a while, such as, you know, until likely in 2026 and beyond, that I suppose maybe that more Sonic games was expected to be only going to be releasing on next generation of consoles at this point in the near future, like, you know, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X/S, neither with Nintendo Switch 2, and, well, we have no idea at this point just yet, because considering about the fact that at this point in time, we've only just got about 10 months left until, Sega will be able to try to celebrate the 35th anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog until next year, in 2026.
Oh, alongside with that, there's also going to be the, 25th anniversary of the Super Monkey Ball franchise as well.
Oh yeah, because considering about the fact that we haven't got a new Monkey Ball game ever since, you know, Banana Rumble exclusively onto Nintendo Switch, which I'm honestly genuinely surprised, because considering about the fact that while looking back on the past Super Monkey Ball games in the past, specifically, let's just say Banana Mania, that was the last time that Super Monkey Ball games do ever came out on PlayStation consoles in addition to Xbox systems, whilst meanwhile for Nintendo's part, they still managed able to release some of these Super Monkey Ball games on Nintendo systems ever since, you know, Super Monkey Ball 1, Super Monkey Ball 2, Super Monkey Ball Jr., and in addition to Super Monkey Ball Touch and Roll, and Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz on the Wii, and Step and Roll, and even with 3D. So as a result, yeah, it seems to be more specifically is about the fact that it feels like Nintendo has a very good relationship in regards to the forms of the Super Monkey Ball games in general, because, well, the only time exception about the fact that Nintendo does not have, in terms of the forms of Monkey Ball games as far as release schedule as far as I'm aware, which appears to be Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, although at this point is about the fact that, luckily though, we can now finally able to actually access to, well, the deluxe levels on Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania, and meanwhile there's also, let's just say, Sega Superstars technically, because, well, generally speaking, it was about the fact that with Sega Superstars, was only exclusive onto PlayStation 2, all thanks to the forms of the iToy camera accessory, whilst usually around that time, though, it was about the fact that that game has already been out for about, 21 years ago at this point. Gee, time flies, especially considering about the fact that this year will mark the 20th anniversary of one of those Sonic compilation games, which is of course Sonic Gems Collection, which then again though, that'll be a topic for later time, just because no matter what though, is about the fact that we haven't exactly looked back on the forms of some anniversaries for quite some time, especially considering about the fact that Maxi has already gone on and on and on in terms of the forms of multitude of anniversaries in the past, specifically though, for the fact that no matter what though, is about the fact that we can pretty much expect about the fact that, well, there's also another thing else we'd like to point things out, is about the fact that, like what Maxi also points this out, ever since during the forms have been in Pro Rolls mode, from the likes of in Mario Party mode in Super Mario Party Jamboree, they did manage able to point out about the fact that, you know, recently though, that Drag X Drive game for the Nintendo Switch 2 did somehow receive some very mixed reception when it comes to reviews alike, like some are worse than others, especially considering about the fact that, well, there's one thing he did manage able to forgot to point out, and that's what it appears to be for the fact that much like, let's say, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games on the Wii, it does manage to give you a lot of arm motion exhaustion, which as a result, yeah, it might be one of those scenarios about the fact it's a good thing we didn't get the game, to be honest with you, but this is mainly because, not only for the sake of the forms you get tired out all of a sudden with all that constant mouse controls here and there,
but it's also reassuring about this too is about the fact that, for what I can tell, that it does not contain that much content. Well, aside from the fact that it only cost us about, let's just say £17.99 or $20 if you lived in America. So generally speaking, it was about the fact that, yeah, we're probably not going to be missing out that much of that particular game, I have to be quite frank here.
Yeah, I can honestly agree, especially noticeable because at that point in time, that we've only just got about, I would say, we've only got about 12 days to go now until the launch of the another Nintendo Switch 2 Edition game is on its way, which is of course Kirby and the Forgotten Land Nintendo Switch 2 Edition plus Star Crossed World, so we can pretty much expect of what's to come if, assuming if Maxi will definitely going to be going back into that game, at least after whatever he decides able to, hopefully try to able to finish up every aspect in terms of Super Mario Party Jamboree, or if not though, we'll have to think of something else, especially considering about the fact that at this point in time, that, you know, it's been about a year ago since we've last experienced Luigi's Mansion 2 as a Let's Play either way. Well, despite the fact that we did somehow end off that particular Let's Play just around that time when Halloween starts, since in last year, so yeah, I was thought about that. So anyway, so it looks like I'm about to be going after a nice little freebie item in that particular item house. So, although I do realize about the fact you accidentally missed out on that particular star coin, which you're about to be coming back for that, aren't you? Well, because thankfully though, I managed able to get myself my glorious hammer flower, so just in case I can able to save that up for later. Well, technically for me either way, because I'm about to be hitting over into the next level after we're done with this, so as far as I'm aware, that the star coin I was missing on, I think what appears, I did not notice there's a Mega Mushroom on this, but I'm probably gonna have to ignore that for now, just in case, for the fact I don't wanna risk myself too much when it comes to trial and error here and there. Although, believe me though, it's about the fact that if some toys else were able to actually decide to do Donkey Kong Country 3 for the Game Boy Advance version at some point, well, even then, no, that's gonna be quite interesting, all things considered, because in, you know, the Game Boy Advance version of Donkey Kong Country 3 might able to actually brings us some even more content, which, even then, though, that we'll get into more details about that, if, you know, some toy sales were able to actually get onto that particular version of that game, probably later on throughout the whole year in 2025, if possible, at least after whatever we decided able to wrap up. Not only Super Mario Party Jamboree at some point, but in addition to, supposedly, if we get around on doing, Luigi's Mansion 3 at some point, just before Halloween is about to start again, until specifically in the next 2 months. And heck, even especially noticeable, as we've mentioned about this earlier, to able to actually try to get our hands on with the Switch 2 edition of Kirby and the Forgotten Land, to able to experience new content, you know? Yeah, to be more specifically though, is about the fact that I get the feeling you're about to be going for the exact same stages again, but with different perspectives, as we probably already expect, so. But either way, that pretty much does it for World 7-2 now, so alright, so it's now my turn to do World 7-3. So here we go, on to Tipsaw Trench, I think is what the level itself is called, so. Because previously, though, on the vanilla version of New Super Mario Bros., that was the level that you can able to actually catch a ride on, Wiggler, and there's no checkpoints whatsoever. So because of that, oh, about with the advance of no checkpoints, I just realized. Oh, what's that? Is that until specifically World 7A, and in addition to World 7-7, something tells me about the fact that those 2 stages coming up will not feature any checkpoints. Oh, shoot. I did not even realize about that until recently. So, well, because mind you, though, is about the fact it's been about 6 days ago since we've last touched upon this game for sure. Because let's face it, though, is about the fact that hopefully by this weekend, we can definitely try to able to actually wrap things up every aspect in this particular ROM hack before you're able to actually let, you know, Maxi will continue on playing through Super Mario Party Jamboree, and on top of all that stuff, there's some other surprises when it comes to, like, upcoming weekend Let's Plays as far as I'm aware. So, yeah, you can probably get the gist of it. So, anyways, and also I just realized I'm almost going to be dying thanks to these very well-placed spike balls here and there, in addition to large ones as well. So, yeah, I was not expecting for this point right there, but, oh, wait a second. Something tells me that, yep, I do need that giant spike ball in order able to actually destroy that particular staircase blocks. So, although thankfully though, you can able to retry as many times as you want, assuming of course we don't want to let the time run out. So, there we go, 3rd time's the charm. So, how about that? Alright, not doing too shabby for the most part, even though despite the fact that Mighty did somehow died once so far intensity forms of World 7, which is of course in World 7-1, because like I said before, it's about the fact that this is when the game starts to get a little bit difficult, especially noticeable with all this unexpected lack of checkpoints in some stages that you did point out earlier, by the way, Mighty.
Yeah, because I just want to give you a little bit of a heads up for circumstances, so...
Now, of course, as we expected, though, is about the fact that, yes, much like the forms of the vanilla version of New Super Mario Bros. On DS, specifically, in World 7-5, and in addition to World 7-6, and maybe World 7-4 as well, that you do need to acquire a secret exit in order to able to actually finish the entire world, because otherwise, if you can't, then obviously though you need to keep on searching around. So, oh wow, what a coincidence that we've almost maxed out our, did we max out our lives counter by the way? Although, mind you, I didn't pay attention to the forms of the bottom screen as much, but even then.
So I guess it's now my turn to do the tower level, so...
In fact, no matter what though, I'm pretty sure we've only got about, 2 tower stages left, because like I established that before, that once we get into the 8th and the final world, obviously though is about the fact that we can only come across into, 1 tower level in World 8 in this ROM hack. Unlike the vanilla version of New Super Mario Bros., it does contain, 2 tower levels that it does manage to incorporate the snake block journey.
And meanwhile, when it comes to the forms of other aspects worth noting for the fact that, well, again, it's a bit tricky to explain because like you already said earlier, Ray, is that it's been about, 6 days since we've last played this ROM hack, so...
And maybe at some point in the near future, we can able to actually try to play even more Mario ROM hack games in the future, but it's not going to be in this year somehow because we've already we actually been through 3 Mario ROM hacks so far for this year. So as a result, though, we can probably do more for this next year for 2026 on a special occasion.
Which, even then though, we've recently tried out this very cool ROM hack called Super Mario Star Road.
And in addition to Super Mario 64 Land, which is almost inspired by Super Mario 3D Land, but on the N64 engine.
And not only that though, you're going to be collecting stars throughout the majority of those ROM hacks basically.
Yeah, we'll like to try to figure something this out if we decide able to actually get the timing going for trying to do those particular Let's Plays on those. So, but like I said before, but I might as well say this again, it's probably best if we're able to wait on that until 2026 for potentially trying to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the game's release of Super Mario 64, specifically in Japan.
Oh yeah, I guess that makes a little bit more sense for that regard.
So, and also I just realized about the fact that you're trying to able to actually avoid those little skewers there while trying to hop onto that particular directional platform there.
Because, kind of think about it though, it reminds me of so much of World 7- Tower level in New Super Mario Bros. Wii for a little bit. Although, thankfully though, you don't need to worry about the forms that bomb destruction thing when if you're trying to blow up the wall in order to actually access to the 3rd and final star coin, because my goodness, while looking back on it though, it just feels incredibly annoying to try to obtain that, to be quite frank here, so... But either way, I've managed to get the star coin, so everything else is all set, so...
Yeah, time to do over yet another Bowser Jr. fight, so obviously though, since you're able to actually got the Fire Flower power-up, then you should able to thrash him, no problem, so...
Yep, everything else checks out there, until specifically the final boss, which then again though, we're probably not going to get into any further details at this point, so...
Oh, and by the way, something's worth noting for, since that we've already completed World 6, just before we got into World 7, we don't usually see Bowser Jr. to somehow hostage Peach, because as a result, we've already somehow triggered that on once we get started on World 8, the final world of this ROM hack. So,
alright, so here we go on to a very interesting level right there, which does manage to take place in Cloud Bolt Chasm, I think is what it says anyway.
So, in some cases, it's now my turn to deal with this very, stormy, stage, as far as I'm aware. And something tells me I do need to try to avoid that particular thundercloud thing right there. So, no matter what, though, is about the fact... Oh, jeez. Yeah, I would say using Luigi in this stage will give me a life disadvantage, because well, as you can definitely tell, because Luigi did somehow jump ridiculously high, so, and also I do need to use that particular thunderclouds to destroy those blocks, apparently, to get one of the first of the 3 star coins. Also, I just realized those platforms look a bit familiar. You know what those platforms that we've already experienced since in Super Mario Bros. 3 in World 5? Oh yes, those platforms that, they can be kind of annoying to deal with sometimes for me though, because there are a couple of times where I've lost my footing, and as a result though, it cost me so many lives wasted, so... But, thankfully for me though, is about the fact that I can at least manage to able to jump a little bit higher than I was expecting. And also just realized about the fact that the background music for this particular stage specifically is almost like a depression version of one of the music tracks from the likes of in Yoshi's Island a little bit, with that particular athletic music theme or something like that. Well, that could be true for that regard, so oh thank goodness there's a checkpoint, because I seriously need that, just in case I refuse to able to do the entire stage all over again if I accidentally died somehow, so actually, kind of think about it, I think there might be a secret exit in this level, kind of think about it, so I'm pursuing that yellow pipe over there, that could be gives me a hint, so as a result, not only does it lead me into the 3rd and the final star coin essentially, but also the secret exit as well. So, yay! How about that?
Okay, so kind of thinking about it though is about the fact that we're now on to the halfway point in terms of World 7, so as a result though is about the fact that, like we've already established that before, the actual world's length at this point is going to get super duper long, so as a result though is about the fact that we can pretty much expect to believe that, you get the idea for this point right there, so, anyway, so I need to go back into this stage again to get ourselves the normal exit to able to encounter some more levels to come. So, and what's inside in here? Oh, awesome, we got ourselves the Hammer Bros suit, which means, since I've got myself my glorious Hammer Bros suit, I can demolish that particular thundercloud obstacle, so as a result though, yeah, that is so satisfying able to finish him off like so. Although, I still need to be very careful of my high jumps, you know, because otherwise, if I accidentally touch an enemy or a thundercloud, I will lose that power-up, so, yeah, don't want to waste that too much, and especially noticeable is even bad enough. This stage is an auto-scroller, basically, but thankfully that, it does have a midway checkpoint, so, oh, jeez, that was close. Ah, no! There goes my Hammer Bros suit power-up. Ah, jeez, I'm going to do this the hard way then, aren't I? And there goes that particular spare fire flower, but even then, I'm also doing it for sake keeping, for you know, protecting the fire flower at all costs with all that, using power-ups wisely in case it does some situations like, you get the idea for this point. Sorry, I just had to concentrate on this point right there, because even then, again, if I fall off, I have to restart the entire stage again, so. Oh, jeez, that was close. Yeah, this is going to be quite interesting to, experience, despite you accidentally died.
Yeah, I was thought about that, because I've somehow lost my footing, but, oh well, no big deal, because after all, I've already got the checkpoint earlier, so, let's try this again, shall we?
So, anywho though, so yeah, I'm afraid to tell you for this point guys, is about the fact that there's nothing else we could really talk about, or something new just came up with.
Well, apart from the fact that you do realize about the fact that we've only just got about, I would say 4 days left until the Gamescom 2025 is officially going to be began. So hopefully though, we can able to actually see some proper gameplay footage of not only Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, was expecting that that's going to be the case, and on top of that, with the Switch 2 version of Final Fantasy VII Remake integrate, just to see how that game plays out on the Switch 2 version. Yeah, because believe it or not though, it's about the fact I'm actually super duper excited for that particular version to come out on the Switch 2 version specifically.
Well, don't get your hopes up at this point just yet though, Ray, because as you probably expect, when it comes to the majority of the third-party supportive games, that obviously though, if you try to get the game physically, you're pretty much stuck with the forms of that godforsaken game key cards.
Oh yeah, I might be worried about that actually, because, well, generally speaking, I was about the fact that still, can you imagine about the fact that if the internet service has been shut down, in the near distant future, that means those games will be inaccessible at this point, which is so mind-boggling, which you get the idea for that.
Oh, this particular stage. This stage is awesome because it reminds me of so much of not only one of the levels from New Super Mario Bros. U, but in addition to the majority of the world in World 4 in the forms of in Super Mario Bros. 3, because everything else when it comes to enemy types and all that are pretty much huge and gigantic. So
yeah, because kind of thing about it though is about the fact that, well, in order able to actually access this secret exit on this stage, this is where the getting the secret exit sometimes makes things a little bit tricky. And don't even get me started during the involves of in the next level coming up, which appears to be World 7-6 of all places, because, you know, like I said before, the game's difficulty is about to ramp up quite slightly, although relatively speaking, that was most likely because of hesitation problems, so...
Oh, is this the secret exit you're on about?
Yeah, because we have to rely on this Buzzy Beetle right there, specifically the giant variation of these giant beetles. So as a result, or Buzzy Beetles I should say. Sorry for a little bit of a tongue twist in the end, folks, but yeah, as you can see, in order able to actually get to the secret exit is that you need to enter the red pipe in the quickest way imaginable, which unfortunately though for you, Mighty, you are pretty much too slow on that part, so...
But that's okay though, because I'm trying to go for normal exit first, so that's essentially how I can go for this point. And also something tells me the third and final star coin does require a specific technique, which appears to be, you know, utilizing the giant Buzzy Beetle shell to bust out these blocks right there in order able to progress, so... Let's go away for this right timing, and oh dang it, I screwed it up. But at least I did somehow succeed on the 4th attempt, so that's not too shabby, I guess. Oh jeez, I totally forgot about those little spiny shells to somehow come out of these red pipes.
Also, the way I see these little pipe sprites in this particular ROM hack, I think those pipes specifically, they are heavily borrowed from the likes of a New Super Mario Bros. U a little bit, just because it doesn't have any glossy shiny effect or anything else like that. So it's just quite literally, it's just, well, the familiar sprite from the likes of a New Super Mario Bros. U, but on the DS system. So yeah, it's quite interesting, all things considered, by the way. So
oh goodness gracious me, I forgot about these tiny platforms to go through! But luckily, I somehow survived, so how about that? But of course, I'm not exactly done with this stage just yet, like you said earlier, Ray, because there's a secret exit, so... Yeah, I'm also focused on that first, before it's your turn now to deal with World 7-6, so good luck with that level, by the way.
Oh, because that was the level I was on about. Whenever I did manage to able to look upon some stages in particular, that I was a little bit optimistic at first, but even then though, we'll wait and see what happens at your time, so... Wow, you seemingly go breezily win for this for the most part though, Mighty, which I'm generally impressed about your skills right there.
Well, don't get your hopes up at this point, because even then, I'm about to be going into, without a doubt, is the hardest secret exit to obtain sometimes, so...
Yeah, because again, you need to be fast on that, and also make sure you don't let the Buzzy Beetle decide able to actually just, you know, break the last few blocks here and there.
Oh, I gotta be quick, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, ah, yeah!
And sure enough, you somehow found it. So, and that way you should able to actually access to World 7-A. So, of course, we'll save World 7-A for later, because obviously, though, we'll try to go for these levels in alphabetical order. So, just to make a little bit more sense, able to actually go from level to level, basically. So, anyway, now it's my turn on World 7-6 in Spiny Swings. Oh boy, this stage is going to be pretty tricky.
Which, not only for the sake of the forms of how this level plays out to be, because also about the fact that this is also where the fact that we can able to expect that there's actually going to be the final secret exit in the whole entire ROM hack, which, quite frankly though, is actually not too hard, I have to be quite frank here.
Well, I can't really tell for sure for this point though, Mighty, because as you can tell, this stage is filled to the brim with a lot of spiky objects I do definitely need to avoid in the right timing of these jumps, because, you know, sometimes it's kind of hard for me to try to get back onto the actual swingy ropes kind of syndrome in this new Super Mario Bros. Engine, just because I'm pretty much used to with, for whatever reason, I'm pretty much used to with the forms of well, let's just say, for instance, though, with the forms of New Super Mario Bros. Wii, chain swings or something like that, or I have no idea, but even then, though, I get the feeling that the secret exit is gonna be, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something here, because even then I was had to focus on this, because if I got distracted, that means I'm about to get screwed over so many times, so... Ah, dang it, I somehow slipped up. But that's okay though, because I got the checkpoint earlier, so... Oh well though, so I suppose we somehow encountered, or I encountered 2 deaths on this world so far, whilst unlike you, Mighty, somehow only got 1 death on this world so far, so in fact, we couldn't really keep in track of our deaths count so far, because unlike something related to the forms of how the fact that, well, usually back in Super Mario Bros. 3, not only on the NES, but in addition to on the Super Nintendo for the Super Mario All-Stars version, and especially noticeable with Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3, that obviously does about the fact that, again, we somehow lost track of ourselves when it comes to death counts for the sake of some stages anyway, so... Oh, hello! I almost first thought that was going to be a bottomless pit, but thankfully that's not the case, which not only leads me to the 3rd and final star coin, but also the final secret exit in this ROM hack. So, essentially, at this point for the later stages to come, we are now going to be looking at or just trying to find the normal exits, basically. So, yeah, because unlike the forms of, you know, the future New Super Mario Bros. Games ranging from New Super Mario Bros. Wii, New Super Mario Bros. 2, and New Super Mario Bros. U, / technically, New Super Luigi U, as DLC is as far as I'm aware. Obviously, though, is about the fact that it does manage to contain at least 1 or 2 secret exits to be found. I'm pretty sure that's what it's at, so yeah, despite the fact that we still need to try to think about try to do a redo Let's Play of New Super Mario Bros. 2 on the 3DS, just because, well, while looking back on it though, the quality itself is not good, and not only that though, the commentary, for what I can tell, is pretty muffled on the main playthrough, whilst in the DLC though, it seems to be okay as it stands, but it's just that, well, sometimes about the fact that not every single, like, process of any other videos of ours is not perfect though, but regardless of anything else though, at the very least we did somehow feel a bit experimental or exponential for the sake of the forms of trying to experience something, you know? Oh jeez, that was close. I almost slipped up again, but hey, at least I got the checkpoint again, so I just need to able to make my way to the normal exit, which should be straight on, basically, so I don't have to necessarily try to fall down again, so...
And gee, kind of thinking about it though yesterday, right, is that the weather is really hot, you know?
Yeah, I know that, right? Especially it's a good thing we did somehow manage to able to experience the beach recently yesterday, and so much to the point that unlike Maxie though, that he somehow basically still plays around with Super Mario Party Jamboree with the pro rolls essentially, so oh jeez. Alright. Whew. That was close, and we got another fireworks display, so I'm very curious to know for the fact... Oh, wait a second, the Mega Mushroom house is still there at the start, doesn't it?
Yeah, because believe it or not though, we haven't exactly obtained the Mega Mushroom for that particular item house, so...
Yeah, I thought so anyway, so... Anyway, let's move on to...
Oh no, this level!
Oh, what's wrong with this level then?
Well, for starters, about the fact I have to force myself to able to obtain the mini mushroom, much like the forms of how it does in World 2-A, and second of all, there aren't any checkpoints, so if I do mess up at any point of this stage, I have to restart the entire stage all over again. And thirdly, this stage is filled to the brim with a lot of bullet bills and bonsai bills, or in some cases nowadays, bomber bills. So, and fourthly though, is about the fact this is an auto-scrolling stage as well, so much to the point for the fact that out of all the actual stages in this entire ROM hack, that This is without a doubt is the hardest stage in the entire ROM hack by far, and generally speaking I was about the fact that, well, good luck for trying to get yourselves all 3 of these star coins, because otherwise you're gonna die a lot, and obviously for the fact that, like I said this before, for the fact that this particular stage does not contain any checkpoints. Because kind of think about it though, Mighty, is that unlike in the vanilla version of New Super Mario Bros. On DS, where it comes to World 7-7, at the very least it does give you a checkpoint, but that's not the case in this ROM hack, which as a result, it just makes things a lot more difficult. And not only that though, sometimes you need to pay attention to the forms of how to factor with these different patterns with these appearance, not only for those bunch of bullet bills, but in addition to bomber bills or bonsai bills specifically. But apart from those aside things though, I'm glad this level's done, so thank goodness for that. So of course we only got 2 stages to go until we've basically done every aspect in terms of World 7 before we move on to the final world in this ROM hack. So here we go on to Ghostly Gap. So now it's my turn to deal with this particular stage. So and usually in the forms within World 7-A. So oh yeah, this level does have filled to the brim with a lot of tornadoes that you can able to actually hop onto, just like the forms of how it does it on some desert stages in the vanilla version of New Super Mario Bros. On DS, at least that's why I'm noticing something. So, I digress. So, oh wait, can I think about it though, it was actually in World 6, if I can recall, in World 6-A, in New Super Mario Bros. On DS, I'm pretty sure. I mean, mind you though, it's been about 9 years ago since we've last experienced New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, the vanilla version of it, just because at that point in time is about the fact that obviously though we've almost pretty much done every Let's Plays when it comes to not only 2D Mario games, but also with 3D Mario games as well, despite the fact that, like you already on about earlier, for the fact that we'll try to plan things out to able to do a redo Let's Plays of not only New Super Mario Bros. 2, but in addition to Super Mario 3D Land, and fundamentally speaking, I was about the fact that once we're done with those, we are essentially pretty much done in terms of every 2D Mario games, I'm sure enough. So, oh, wait a second, I just realized I'm somehow missing not 1, but 2 star coins left. So because of that, something tells me that I was about the fact I have to, like, lower myself down in order to able to actually get ourselves, or just try to get not only star coin number 1, but in addition to star coin number 3 in this particular stage specifically, because at this point in time, I've only got 1, which appears to be the 2nd star coin, but either way though, I'm sure I can able to actually go ahead and try to find them, if possible. So, there's one over there. I totally forgot I just somehow managed to not notice that was there, so. And also, as far as I'm aware, this stage also does not contain any checkpoints, so we have to do this in one singular run. So, yeah, I'm very generous to know about the fact that some stages are very stingy when it comes to lack of checkpoints, but regardless of anything else though, thankfully though, that since that we've already maxed out our 99 lives at this point, so as a result though, it's about the fact that this particular stage is the greatest way you can able to actually chain with your 1-up chain, especially noticeable if you try to keep on stopping onto some enemies like Koopa Paratroopers, and in addition to Bonsai Bills or Bomber Bills nowadays. So yeah, you can probably get the idea of what this is going. So anyway, so let's just go ahead and be very careful here. I don't want to screw myself over. I get the feeling that the 3rd and final star coin is actually at the very end of the level, because I'm pretty sure, for the fact I can definitely hear a wind sound in the bottom, so that means that, yes, I'm pretty sure there's the 3rd and final star coin, and unfortunately I've got hit, but that's okay though, because the end of the level is just nearby. So, wowee, those 2 stages in particular that we've already experienced with, doesn't seem to able to actually just, well, it still is pretty tricky when you get the hang of the forms of some new mechanics involved, but either way. Onwards to World 7 Bowser's Castle, which, suffice to say, it looks like, for the fact that it's now your turn, Mighty, to deal with the castle level in World 7. So, and it's also reassuring about the fact that we do apologize, there's going to be some flashing images in this particular stage. That's mainly because this place is going to be quite stormy around here.
And as far as I'm aware though, it's about the fact that we might come across into ourselves a familiar boss, ever since in the vanilla version of New Super Mario Bros. On DS, in World 7 specifically, which you probably get the idea what we're going to be on about. So anyway, I'll let you focus on that for this point, Mighty, because even then though, this particular stage also decides able to actually bring not only worms, but in addition to that familiar swingy platforms ever since in the vanilla version of New Super Mario Bros. On DS on World 4 Castle. So, and obviously there's absolutely no point for able to try to go after the Dragon Coins specifically, because they're just there for the sake of bragging rights. So even then, although then again though, if we somehow managed able to go into Super Mario World, Super Mario Advance 2 at some point in the near future, oh my god, 100%ing that game is going to be painful. So, but I suppose that particular topic can wait though. Probably during the Informs been, I don't know, for this year in particular, or if not, that could be probably be delayed until sometime in 2026 if possible. I mean, it's a bit tricky to decide, so, oh man. So, anyway, and yeah, as far as I'm aware, it's gonna be a massive shame until next week, specifically for Netflix, players, or specifically, Netflix viewers, is that, unfortunately though, the Super Mario Bros. Movie will be delisted on Netflix until, next week for now. So because of that though, yeah, it kinda sucks though, but at least luckily we still managed to get the film on DVD and Blu-ray still. And one thing I did not even realize about the fact that recently though, I did somehow manage to able to fund myself the actual DVD case replacement for specifically Tiny Toon Adventures How I Spend My Vacation DVD. Well, just mainly because I'm not a big fan of the phones this flimsy recycled case. Like, usually relatively speaking, it's about the fact it's kind of hard for me to try to get the actual discs out of the actual specific physical cases sometimes. Well, but I can possibly understand about the fact that they really want to change the phones that format for the sake of the phones, the shape and the thickness and all that stuff. So as a result though, I just found that particular most recent DVD cases as kind of flimsy these days, because I do miss the old times where basically though back then it's actually pretty easy to get some discs out thanks to the phones that pressable thing, which is hard for me to explain about this particular solution. But aside from all that stuff though, yeah, that's as far as I can try to describe about this, I guess. So I get the feeling there was a third and final star coin just up here, which thankfully, after so many tries later, that I somehow obtained it. So alright, time to deal with the forms of the next fight in the forms of the newer Super Mario Bros. DS. And again, this might be familiar to you, and that's what appears to be Lucky Thunder. So as a result, the entire fight is basically unchanged, except this time, well, as you can see, there are no bottomless pits everywhere. So because of that though, this makes the entire fight a little bit easier compared to the forms of how it does on the vanilla version of New Super Mario Bros. On DS. And thankfully, I did manage to kill him off with 2 hits, thanks to the forms of that glorious ground pound at the end. So, and there we go, that pretty much does it for every aspect in World 7, so not too shabby right there, despite the fact that we do die occasionally, but that's besides the point. So, it looks like we somehow finally made it into the 8th and the final world in newer Super Mario Bros. DS. So, yeah, it seems pretty crazy to believe about the fact that we breezily went for those other stages within the quickest way imaginable, despite death situations here and there. So anyways, with that being said folks, is that we should probably end things off this point right here. So join us tomorrow for more of Let's Play of newer Super Mario Bros. DS, is that we're about to be going into the final world in newer Super Mario Bros. DS, and that's what it'll be taking place in Koopa Country. So we'll see you guys until tomorrow. Later fellas, see you guys then.